This is Jigar Sagar.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Right. Let me get to the point. Most of us believe that the fears we carry are a result and a consequence of our own actions and mistakes. But in reality, these fears that run our lives, they were there even before us. So I want to ask you a very significant question. A question I don't want you to just hear, but to feel. Whose fear are you living with today? Is it really your fear, or is it someone else's? Maybe your partner's fear, or probably your parents' fear, or is it just society's fear? Thing is, this fear is driving some of the most important decisions of our life. And it did not even begin with us. Now, my story did not start with fear, but fear was there from the beginning of my story. You see, growing up, I grew up in a normal household, right? Loving, caring, protective parents. And I grew up here in Dubai in an apartment building, having a balcony similar to what you see here with a railing. And as a child, every time I would go to the balcony or get close to the railing, I would hear the screams of my mother. Stop! Don't go there. You will fall down. You will get hurt. These were her words out of care, but for a child, it was simply instructions. A few years later, I happened to be at a water park here in Dubai for a school trip, and me and the friends were playing around. And at some point, I was at the top of the tallest slide of the park. And as I was about to jump in, my legs froze. Out of nowhere, so many years later, the voice came back in my head. Stop! Don't go there. You're going to fall down. You're going to get hurt. You see, I was not at the balcony, but my brain had taken me to a memory of fear. Our fear does not disappear. It evolves. It's not only childhood where you accumulate your fears. You also gather fears by inheriting them. You take it from people you care about, people you look up to. Could be your parents, could be your teachers, could be the mentors, could be the speakers on the stage here, could be anyone that you look up to. In my case, as a young adult, I was undergoing business training with my father. And as a part of that, I would observe and shadow him. And I would see business opportunities that he wouldn't take. And being the curious person that I am, I would question it. The response was, play it safe. He would almost equate taking risks to gambling, as if it was a sin. You see, he was playing it safe probably because that was what was needed in his time, in his generation. But what was happening here was he was limiting me. There is another kind of fear that we don't often connect to or speak about. It comes from heartbreak. Anyone in this room who has lost someone they love to death, to separation, divorce, a nasty breakup, an abrupt end to a relationship with someone you love. Someone that you thought and dreamt of having a permanent relationship with. Someone you thought of a future with. And what happens is that that's the heartbreak that sort of leaves a void, a numb, makes you feel all alone, even if you're in a crowded room like this. It makes you feel like you're breathing, but you're not truly alive. And the reason for that is because your fear kicks in. What happens with the heartbreak is that it starts losing faith in the concept of happiness. Because you thought that that relationship was going to be permanent and it was not, you start getting afraid of anything that has the potential of not being permanent. And happiness is not a state of permanence. It's a constant pursuit that requires you to be happy. A few years later, actually it was exactly one day before my wedding, I found myself at the edge of an aeroplane about to jump for a skydive. And as I got closer to the door, the wind was gushing. And yes, the voice came back. Don't go there. You're going to fall down. You're going to get hurt. Stop. But I had to take a decision. Do I carry the fears from my past into the next chapter of my life, or do I break free from them? So I jumped. And as I jumped, it wasn't just about the thrill. It was about actually taking an action to change the story of my life, to change the narrative. And as I was falling from the sky, I hit a moment of realization. Realization that all these fears that I've been carrying all this while in my life, they were not even mine to begin with. However, it was in my hands through my own actions that I could break free of them. You see, my moment came in an aha moment, falling from the sky. But in many cases, this realization and that clarity comes over a period of time. But what's important for clarity to be there is that you begin by honesty. You have to be honest with yourself about your fears. You have to take a stock of your fears. You have to accept the reality. In my case, I had to take a stock of my fears and where they come from. And many of my fears came from what my parents did and told me. So I had to be honest with myself and accept my parents as just parents, as just people who were living their lives with their own fears and their own version. You see, my parents weren't afraid for me because the world was a dangerous place for me. They were playing it safe because the world had been a dangerous place for them. And that's the problem with playing it safe. You think safety is the opposite of fear? No. In reality, they're like cousins. They both limit you. Safety is like that ceiling. It's a transparent ceiling that you can't see. It's stopping you from thriving, going ahead. And by the time you hit it and you realize it exists, you have wasted a lot of your precious time. You can still make a change, but that time is lost. One of the ways to fight your fear is by know-how. Fear works in a mysterious way. If you understand and gather know-how, the knowledge, fear loses power. And today, a lot of you in this room are here because you want to probably become entrepreneurs. You want to take the next step. You want to grow your career. And it's not complicated. I've done it over 100+ times. I have failed many a times, but with over 35+ companies, I can tell you, the more simpler you keep it, the more fearless you can be. So this is the real roadmap of entrepreneurship, frankly speaking. 1, begin by your strength. What I mean by strength here is your skill set, fundamental skills, fundamental experience, things that you can apply to many places, many industries, many sectors. This is not your CV or resume that I'm talking about. Are you good at painting? Are you good at executing? Are you a good coder? Are you good with numbers? Not even about accounts or finance or engineering. Fundamental skills that are transferable across your personal and professional life. Second, look to solve a real life problem. Because the solution to that problem is your business. And in order to execute that solution, you'll have to take a stock of what skills, what technical expertise is going to be required. And you do a recon between what you have and what's going to be needed. And understand what is the gap and fill it. Fill it by hiring people, consultants, freelancers, partners, co-founders. And that's when you go to the next step, which is take a stock of reality. You see that financial plan you had built in the beginning? Go back to it. Look at it with an unbiased eyes. Are the revenues really going to be that? Are the costs really going to be that? Where is the funding going to come from? You want to leave your job and start a business? Are you going to really be able to afford having the lifestyle and maintaining the family if you quit? Those are real questions that needs addressing. And once you figure out the solution to those questions, the answers to those questions, you move on. You go and build a MVP, a minimum viable product. It could be a prototype for services. It could be something that you can very quickly take to the market. Your aim is to build a MVP as fast as possible, but as cheaply as possible, yet maintain the essence and the quality of the business solution to solve the problem. Because this MVP lets you take feedback from the market. It lets you understand, are you going to fail? Are you failing? Are you succeeding? What's working? What's not working? And when something fails, don't lose hope. Don't be afraid. Take that as lessons learned. Go back a few steps. Make the necessary changes. Come back again. And even if it succeeds, you have to iterate. Because you had originally built for 1, 10, 100, and now you have to give it a thought about how are you going to build it for 100,000, 10,000, million, billion. How are you going to build it for the global audience, not just for your local geography? And in order to grow, one thing is going to be key. Your network. You see, one person can build a company, but one person cannot scale a company. You will need a team. You will need investors. You will need partners. You will need technical experts. You will need people who focus on certain geographies, for example. And that's why it said, your network is your net worth. Because it's only through this network can you truly grow. And I call my network my team. I want you all to do an exercise now. I want you all to close your eyes. I promise you there's no monsters that's going to come in here, right? Just close your eyes. And I want you all to think of a moment. Go back in your memory, please, to an early childhood thought, as early as you can, where, because we've been speaking about fear, I want you to go back to a memory where you think you felt unheard. A memory where you felt small. A moment in your life where you felt unseen. It could be a moment where you felt you were not in control. A moment that you felt afraid. Now hold on to that moment, because I want you all to now open your eyes and take a piece of paper or your phones out and write that fear that came in your mind. Send a message to yourself or write it in your notes. If you have a piece of paper, write it down. Write down that fear that came to mind. Go for it. It's important that you write it down. Next, write down the voice that played in your head when you thought of that fear. Write down that moment. Write down that fear. Write down the face, the voice that appeared when you thought of that fear. Because we're going to do one thing today. You see, when you all walked in today to attend this summit, knowingly, unknowingly, you were carrying your fears, right? We all have our own fears. We're all afraid of many various things. That's the reality of life. We all carry our fears wherever we go. So when you walked into the summit, you were carrying your fears. And what has happened here is that you understand you could have been carrying your childhood fear, you could have been carrying inherited fears from the people you looked upon, or you could be carrying fears just out of sheer heartbreak and loss. But you have now gotten a moment of realization that for clarity, you need to be, taking a consideration of being honest to yourself and stopping to play it safe. A realization that you will have to take an action to break free of your fear. I had to literally fall from the sky, obviously in a controlled environment, and take that action to get that know-how that it's not going to hurt me, to break free of my fear. You're going to do that first piece of action when you go back home today. Tear that piece of paper or delete that note, because that will be the first action you take towards fighting that fear that you wrote down today. You see, fear works in a mysterious way. The minute you realize of its existence, the minute you want to take control over it, it loses its power. This is where you rise to become what you were always meant to be. The fearless version of yourself is not one to be discovered. It's simply something and someone you return to, because you were born fearless. All that had happened is in your life, you kept gathering fears. Now, it's time for you to take action to break free of them. Thank you.